Okay, I was a very poor girl, only child of my parents, and they, but mother was a school teacher, and in those days, the women school teachers, when they got married, they wouldn't have them teaching anymore.
Yeah.
And so she lost her job as a teacher.
That's ridiculous.
Which is not right, but
No.
of course that's the way it was. And so anyway, she saw that I was well educated in school, and she had had 2 years of college in a college in Commerce, Texas, which is up, I think, east of Dallas, a little way. And so when I was a child growing up, I always heard, when you go to college. It wasn't if you go to college, it was when you go.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm sure they didn't see any way they could send me, that was the way it was. And so my cousin Verna had been class valedictorian, and Baylor University gave scholarships for first year's tuition to any valedictorian in the surrounding area. And so she got a head start with her college education that way, and so I determined that's what I would do. And one day when I was in the 5th grade, I believe it was, the college school principal called me in and said, we think we can let you skip a grade, and would you like to do that? And I said, well, now, I don't know. I'll better talk to my mother about that. And I didn't think they would want me to do it, but after talking to them, they said, yeah, I could. And I was shocked, but anyway, I joined the grade just ahead of me. And, you know, it was hard for me to make that adjustment because those kids didn't accept me right off the bat.
Socially they wouldn't do that, I guess.
And by the time I got up in the higher grades, though, everything was okay. But at first it wasn't good. And so in Texas at the time, the grades, they had 11 grades of school instead of 12. And so by my skipping a grade, I had 10 grades of schooling and graduated when I was 16 years old. And so anyway, I went, let me see. Yeah, I was graduated as a valedictorian, and my thought had always been to go to Baylor because of that scholarship they gave. But then my last year there in school in Aquila, my cousin on the other side of the family, Billy Gilly, she decided that she wanted to go to California. That was her ambition. And she knew there was no way in the world they'd let her go to California unless she wanted to go to an Adventist school. And so, and she wanted to be a nurse, so she told her parents she wanted to go to California and take nursing. And they said, well, okay, but you better take some of your pre-nursing here. And in an Adventist school, we'll send you up to Keene and let you get your pre-nursing there. And so she went there, you know, not because she wanted to, but because that was
the agreement.
The agreement. And when she got there, she loved it. And she came back home talking about it and how she loved going to school there. And I thought, well, it had never occurred to me to go there before. And I thought, well, I believe that's what I want to do. And so, after my high school graduation, my parents and I went there up to Keene, and Pop talked to the business manager and he told him about the offer from Baylor, and business manager says, well, we can do that. And it shocked me because I just really didn't think they would do it.
Yeah.
And so I got to go to Keene. But that was really a big adjustment because, you know, I'd never been away from home much. And when they left me there, I just felt lower than a snake's heel. But I roomed with a girl named Jamie Chandler. And she and I got along all right, but it was not a really great relationship. I guess we were both pretty spoiled kids. And I had not been taught to be as neat as she had been. And I'd sometimes leave my clothes laying around, and she didn't like it. So we had a few little discussions about things like that. And there was the time that, let me think now. Oh, her boyfriend asked me to go to some kind of a social function. They'd broken up temporarily, and he asked me to go, and I saw no reason why I shouldn't since they'd broken up. Well, she didn't like it at all. And one night, I had to get a theme or something done, and I didn't get it done in time for lights out. They had a regular time to turn out the lights, and if you were ready for it, that's tough. The lights went out. But our room was out on right above a porch roof, and we found that we could loosen the screen and get out on that porch roof. And so I got out there with my paper and pencil to do my theme, and when I tried to get back in the room, she had locked me out.
Oh dear.
And fortunately, my cousin Billy was living in the next room, and she heard me trying to get in, and she came over and made Jamie let me in.
Oh, me. This was after the boyfriend thing, and she was mad over that,
she was mad at me. So anyway, let me think now.
Tell me about some of the other pranks you girls did at Keene, or was that all in Loma Linda?
Oh, I don't recall doing many pranks at Keene. I do remember that we were supposed to be in the bed when the lights went out, and the hall monitor would come by and check and be sure we were where we were supposed to be. And I got caught in somebody else's room, and I didn't know how to get back in my room, except that I knew they'd be searching for me or searching the rooms. So I crawled under the bed in this other girl's room. And what happened? The hall monitor came in and shone the flashlight under the bed.
Oh dear. Busted.
Yeah, I was very embarrassed. And I didn't do that again. I was caught with out of the room when the lights went out. I went back to my room quickly. And let's see. Oh, we could, the second year I roomed with another girl named Eva Ewing. And she, we would stay awake after the lights went out and talk. And I remember that one thing we talked about was we put together a make-believe funny paper strip. And we'd have all kinds of adventures for our characters in the funny paper.
Tell about where you worked.
And who all you knew at Keene, too.
Okay, well, let's start first with who all I knew. Jack Clark was one I remember particularly.
Oh, I didn't know Jack Clark was here.
Yeah, he was there when I was there. I think he was just about my age. And his mother either owned or was in charge of a drugstore there. And that was the only place you could go and buy any frivolous stuff, you know. And so we were in there a lot, and he helped her behind the counter, and I learned to know him there. And yeah, I met Frank Canoodle there, and he was a year or so younger than I was. And smart, he was a real whiz kid. And
Where was he from?
he was from New Mexico, I think, at the time. And let's see, who else did I know there that would... Yeah, I knew Clyde Ball there. And yeah, no, they weren't Cookie people, I don't think. Maybe they were related to the Cookie people. Anyway, oh yes, I must tell you this. I was a member of the Man Haters Club. In fact, I was the president of the Man Haters Club. There were 4 of us, and Billy was one of them, and she was president of the Man Haters Club. And then there was goodness, I can't even remember their names now. Oh, Virginia Pate, and she was president of the Man Haters Club. And then there was Virginia, wait a minute, can't remember her last name now, but she was president of the Man Haters Club. We were all 4
Had 4 presidents of the Man Haters Club, huh?
Yeah, and our greatest ambition was to get married so we could hate men the most.
What I've
Okay.
had to put up with.
I guess.
And let's see. Well, the first year I was there, when I was still rooming with Jamie, we had room checks. You know, it had to be in a certain order. No disorderly stuff. We had to have the beds made, the clothes hung up, everything just right. And these girls down the hall, who eventually became man-haters, came down, and they, I think they sprinkled salt in our beds or something. They did some kind of trick. I can't know for sure now. But it caused us to get a bad grade for our room check. And so we decided Jamie and I decided to get even with them. And we were going to buy some sardines and put down in their room. Well, we went looking for sardines, and in Keene, Texas, you couldn't find sardines in the grocery store. But we found some Limburger cheese. And so we went down to their room, and as most of the girls did, they had a cake in their closet. And so we put that Limburger cheese in the cake container, and it, of course, smelled up the cake.
Ripened.
And ripened and everything. And so let's see.
They figured it was you?
Oh, of course they knew who did it.
Because I knew who they had done, huh?
Yeah. Oh, so anyway, let's see now.
Yeah, where'd you work?
My first job at the school there was washing dishes. And, no, it was washing pots and pans. That was the first thing. And and that included cleaning up the tables. The kids didn't have to pick up the dishes
Wow.
off the tables. We who worked there would pick up the dishes and so forth, and then take them into the kitchen and wash them. And then I graduated to milk bottles, which was better. And I think I stayed with that job all year. Then the second year, I had two jobs. One was doing grading for the English teacher and teaching what they call dumbbell English. When somebody came in that didn't pass a certain test, they had to be tutored for English. And so that was one of my jobs, to grade papers for the English teacher and to teach dumbbell English. Then my other job was to be the lab assistant for the chemistry and what's the other? Science.
Physics?
Yeah, and physics. And I had had chemistry the year before, and so it was not hard at all to grade those papers. Physics I had never had, but he trusted me to grade the papers. And so when I came to a question I didn't know, I'd look it up in the textbook. And anyway, I learned a lot of physics that way.
I guess so.
Didn't get credit for it.
No credit, but I didn't need it anyway. They had a certain protocol of things that you had to know, classes you had to take before you could get into nursing. And since Billy had gone to Loma Linda for nursing, well, of course, I wanted to follow right along. I had those glowing reports from her, how much she enjoyed it and so on.
Yeah.
And so then I applied for Loma Linda, and you were supposed to be 19 when they would take you. Well, I was only 18, but they took me. And I was surprised and very happy to be accepted. So I will never forget getting ready to go to California, and I knew I wouldn't be home again until the next summer. And oh, that was sad. And I had all these things I wanted to take with me, not realizing that I really didn't need them all, but I thought I did. And my dad had I can't think what it's called, a trunk that he had in the Army that was about this long.
I mean,
Footlocker.
say it again.
Foot locker, yeah. Foot locker.
Show me again, because I was zoomed in too far.
Oh,
How big?
about like this.
Okay.
And about that high, and about that wide. And that all my earthly possessions went into that. And I took the train to California. That was back during World War II.
That would have been 44 about then.
Yeah.
43.
Let's see, 1943. And so well, no, I didn't take that trunk to begin with. I mean, first thing he did was to build me a box to take. And it was too big. They wouldn't let me take it on the train.
Yeah.
So we had to come back home and trim my stuff down to that trunk.
Oh dear.
And anyway, we got everything ready and went to the train station. And I got on the train in Hillsboro, rode it down to San Antonio, changed trains there, and went on across the southern part of the country through El Paso and on into Loma Linda.
Hot.
Yeah. And I was excited about it, and I don't think I cried when I left home that time. The next year, when I left home, I just boo-hooed. Because I knew how long it would be before I'd see home again.
Mm.
But anyway, I left home in August, and it was nice and warm in August in Texas. Went south to San Antonio. It's about 200 miles, I guess, down there. And got on the train in San Antonio, rode through the desert to El Paso, and I was so glad I had changed trains in San Antonio instead of in El Paso, because there were crowds of people trying to get on the train in El Paso. And but I had my seat already, so everything was all right. But it was 2.5 days, if I recall correctly, that I was on that train. And of course, I didn't have a berth there in the first place. There weren't any available because there were soldiers on that train, just herds of them. And they didn't have space to put them in berths, and nobody else either. And so we sat up and slept best we could all the way across the country there. And I remember going through Desert Center, California, and the temperature at that time was 113 degrees. And the train was a coal-burning train. And there was no air conditioning in the cars. And the windows were open. You would have died of the heat if you didn't have the windows open. But that also allowed the cinders to come in. So we were covered with cinders by the time we got to California. And the desert, especially through Arizona and California, was just terrible. Then as we got closer to Loma Linda, it got a little less desert-like. It was still plenty desert, but not as bad as it had been. And the train stopped right there in Loma Linda, you know, down at the foot of the hill.
Yeah.
And I got off the train, and I don't remember now how I got my trunk up the hill, but I guess somebody came, I don't know if somebody came to meet me now or not. But anyway, I got off, and I was the only one to get off. And I walked up the hill to the girls' dormitory, and the first person I met there was a good friend of Billy's, and I think it was the girl that got murdered later. I can't think of her name now. Yeah, Elsa May Long. And she was a good friend of Billy's, and she met me, and she found out where for me to go and all that. And I got settled at Loma Linda then. And
it was less desert-like there then.
oh, yes, it was just like paradise. They had good landscaping, and their landscapers just kept the whole campus beautiful.
A lot of irrigation.
Yeah, everything was irrigated. And I really enjoyed looking at all the beautiful flowers and shrubbery and stuff they had there. And remember that the dormitory was on the side of a hill. And to get down to the main street, you went downhill. To get up to the cafeteria and where our classes were, you went uphill. And then we had our practical work in the hospital, which was farther up the hill yet. And it was beautiful up there too. And by the way, that there was a drive around the circle of the hill, and that's where Pop and I did our first courting, walking around that hill. He didn't have a car, and we didn't have any way to go anywhere, so we walked. And so
Okay, well, let's pause here and y'all can join together and talk about the Loma Linda on the next segment.